Kodak is a corporate titan that at its peak controlled 90% of the American film market. But while Kodak helped invent modern photography, it also helped to destroy itself. Today, the story of Kodak is remembered as one of the most iconic business failures in history. But to understand how a giant like Kodak could fall so hard, we have to go back to the beginning, when one man had a vision that would change the way we see the world. Our story begins in 1880 with a young George Eastman. A 24-year-old bank clerk from Rochester, New York, photography in the late 19th century wasn't a hobby for the masses. It was a cumbersome and expensive process. Taking a single photograph meant hauling around large, complicated equipment using fragile glass plates coated with chemicals. Eastman wasn't a trained scientist or engineer, but he had an insatiable curiosity. After an attempted trip to photograph a vacation turned into a logistical nightmare, Eastman became obsessed with making photography easier. In 1880, he invented a method for dry plate photography that replaced the traditional glass plates with flexible film. It was revolutionary. Kodak's early success wasn't just about the camera. It was about the complete experience. Eastman understood that photography wasn't just about the tools, it was about making the process accessible. His genius was in creating a fully integrated business model. When customers finished shooting the 100 photos on their camera, they mailed the entire camera back to Kodak. The company would then develop the film, print the pictures, reload the camera with fresh film, and send it back to the customer. Eastman coined the famous slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest." This approach, simple, convenient, and user-friendly, set Kodak apart. But it wasn't just the technology that fueled Kodak's early growth. It was Eastman's ability to sell the dream of photography. Kodak's advertisement targeted everyday people, not professional photographers. The company positioned itself as the gateway to preserving life's most precious moments. Eastman was also a master marketer. Kodak pioneered the concept of branding with their signature yellow boxes, and the word Kodak was invented to be short, memorable, and distinctive. By 1900, the launch of the Kodak Brownie, priced at just $1, put photography in the hands of the average person. It was affordable, portable, and easy to use. The Brownie was more than a camera, it was a cultural phenomenon. Sales exploded, and Kodak became a household name. By the early 20th century, Kodak had a near monopoly on the photography market. Eastman was relentless in his pursuit of growth. He struck exclusive deals with retailers, built Kodak factories across the globe, and invested heavily in research and development to ensure Kodak stayed ahead of the competition. Kodak wasn't just a camera maker, it was an industrial empire. By the 1920s, the company controlled 80% of the global film market and had expanded into every corner of photography. From camera film to movie film, from X-ray imaging to printing technologies, the company's revenue soared to $27 million by 1927. And Kodak's profits were consistently sky high. Eastman didn't just grow Kodak, he created an ecosystem. The company's film and cameras were inseparable, locking customers into a cycle of buying Kodak products. It was brilliant. Competitors couldn't break in, and Kodak was practically printing money. By the mid-20th century, Kodak was the undisputed king of photography. In the 1950s, Kodak was a symbol of American ingenuity. Nearly every family owned a Kodak camera, and their marketing had created a deeply emotional connection between the brand and its customers. Kodak wasn't just selling film and cameras, it was selling memories. The phrase Kodak moments became part of popular culture, synonymous with capturing life's happiest moments. In 1962, Kodak's annual revenue hit $1 billion for the first time, a monumental achievement. The company's workforce grew, factories expanded, and profits continued to rise. By 1976, Kodak controlled a staggering 90% of the film market in the US and 85% of the camera market. It was a monopoly in everything but name. But by the 1970s, cracks were starting to show. Polaroid, a fast-growing competitor, had introduced instant photography in 1948, allowing customers to snap a picture and watch it develop in seconds. Kodak saw this as a threat. So in 1976, Kodak launched its own line of instant cameras to compete directly with Polaroid. But Polaroid didn't take this lying down. They sued Kodak for patent infringement, accusing them of copying their technology. The lawsuit dragged on for over a decade, and in 1990, Kodak lost. They were forced to pay Polaroid nearly $1 billion in damages and pull their instant cameras from the market entirely. It was a major blow. It was the first major sign that Kodak's dominance wasn't unshakable. But this was only the beginning. At the same time, something else was happening within Kodak's own walls, something that could have saved them from what was coming next. In 1975, Kodak engineer Steven Sasson invented the world's first digital camera. It was primitive, clunky, and the image quality was nowhere near that of a film, but it was a glimpse into the future. Sassoon's invention was revolutionary, but Kodak's executives were terrified. They saw the digital camera as a threat to their lucrative film business, so they buried it. They couldn't have been more wrong. While Kodak sat on its invention, competitors like Sony, Canon, and Nikon pushed forward with digital technology in the 1990s. Digital cameras began to take over. Slowly at first, but soon Kodak's dominance was crumbling. They missed the opportunity to lead a revolution they had invented. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Kodak's fortunes were declining rapidly. Their film business, once a cash cow, was dying as digital photography exploded. They made attempts to pivot, but nothing seemed to work. Despite being late to the digital camera market, Kodak still managed to make billions in sales during the early 2000s, but their profits were shrinking. Between 2003 and 2010, Kodak posted consistent losses. Losing $10 billion in market value, they were forced to close factories, lay off nearly 50,000 workers, and slash costs at every turn. In 2012, it was all over. Kodak, once a symbol of American innovation, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The company that had dominated photography for a century had been undone by its own refusal to embrace the very technology that they had invented. But Kodak's story didn't end there. After emerging from bankruptcy in 2013, Kodak pivoted once again. The company shifted its focus to digital printing, packaging, and software. They licensed their iconic brand name to other companies for consumer electronics in 2020. Kodak even made headlines again after receiving a $765 million loan from the US government to produce pharmaceutical ingredients during the COVID-19 pandemic. But this too led to controversy, with allegations of insider trading and stock manipulation. Kodak today is a shadow of its former self. While they're no longer a major player in consumer photography, they've found new life in other industries, but their legacy remains complex. Kodak's story is one of immense highs and devastating lows. They invented consumer photography, created one of the most recognizable brands in the world, and helped people capture their most cherished memories for over a century. But they also serve as a cautionary tale, a company that once ruled an industry only to fall because they couldn't or wouldn't adapt to the changing world around them. Kodak's impact on photography and the way we see the world is undeniable, but in the end, even giants can fall. Thank you for watching this documentary on Kodak's rise and fall. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more stories like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. And let us know which companies or business moguls you'd like to hear about next.